So this is the first in a series of videos that I hope to make on chord progressions. I'm always making analogies or comparisons between learning to read and learning to read music. The process is similar. You have a 4, 5, or 6-year-old first who learns the sounds that different letters make and then combines these letters or sounds into words, and then the words into very short sentences or phrases, and then into longer sentences using punctuation. So with music, a child learns notes which is like learning letters, and then puts the notes together in two different ways. The first way is consecutively, one after the other, making little groups of notes or phrases, and then putting these phrases together. And when you put enough of these phrases together, it forms what we call a melody, which is like a musical sentence. But the other way of putting notes together is together, and we call them chords. And putting a group of chords together in a certain way, one after the other, that is pleasing to the ear, is called a chord progression. And these chords, which are often called harmony, support the melody, and we often call this the accompaniment to the melody. So before we talk about chord progressions, there is a skill that we have to develop, and that is the skill of naming the chords. We have to learn to name the chords on the page, but also when we see them played on the piano. So I'm talking here about naming the chords that we see the hands, usually the left hand, play on the piano. This is not difficult, at least for 3-note chords that we call triads. 4-note chords or 7th chords are not difficult to name either, as long as we are talking about the kinds of 7th chords that we've looked at in the 7th chord videos. There are many other kinds of 7th chords, but we don't need to get into that for a while yet. So, for triads or 3-note chords, if you have practiced playing root chords and inversions, which I'll demonstrate with chords in the key of C, you shouldn't have much trouble naming them. So, for example, the root chord, like this, first of all, you see that it's the same distance between here and here, and so this is called a root chord. And a root chord, the bottom note is the name of the chord. So in this case, this is a C chord. When you play the first inversion, you see that there's a bigger space here than here. The C is at the top, and so in a first inversion, the top note is the name of the chord. This is a C chord, all right? And the second inversion, and you see this is a bigger space here than here, the middle note is the name of the chord, all right? And same in the left hand. That's a C chord, that's a C chord, and that's a C chord. For the 7th chords, there is a little trick that you can use which helps to avoid getting into a lot of music theory at this point. When you play a 7th chord, a 7th inversion, there are always 2 notes beside each other. When you see this on a page, you can see them. They look like this. And I call them butterflies because, I don't know, they look a little bit like a butterfly. So when you're playing that sort of thing, it looks like that on the piano, or like this, and so on. So when you see that sort of thing on the piano, when you see a chord like this, it's always the top note of the butterfly that's the name of the chord, right? So if I play this, that's the name of the chord. That's a D, so that's a D7, right? So if I play this, or this, the butterfly is there, right there. So the top note of the butterfly is C. If I play this, there's the butterfly, so the top note is that one. If I play this, there's the butterfly, the top note of the butterfly is this. So that's a G7. Okay, I hope you can understand that. We'll go on next to the second video of chord progressions.